What's up, guys? LFK TV episode 5. I'm going to be launching the Hobie in just a couple seconds. Today's episode is going to be a ton of fun. I'm going to be using my ice gear, fishing vertically from the kayak, targeting bluegill, crappie, perch, and I got a feeling we'll get into a couple bass as well. This particular body of water that we're going to be fishing today, I'm not going to name it by name. Let me get that out of the way first. You know, it's a smaller body of water. If you've ever watched my stuff, you know why I don't do that. If you have any questions, though, send me a message. I would love to help. Anyway, this is a flies and lures only body of water. You cannot use scented or salted plastics under 1.5 inches. So I'm going to show you a get around with that to where you can still tip your plastics while staying legal and just have a ton of fun. So stay tuned, guys. We're going to have a blast. All right, guys. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to get rigged up. I've already got a little tungsten jig tied on. This particular body of water, like I mentioned in the intro, is flies and lures only, which means you cannot use scented or salted plastics under 1.5 inches in length. So what I do is I take one of these tentacles off this tube jig, this little baby tube. Okay, I bought them at Walmart for $5 for a big, huge deal of them. Not scented, not salted. I take that tentacle, and what I'm going to do is, I know you guys aren't going to be able to see this with my big hands, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to thread this tentacle up onto the jig to where it looks like a little trailer. Okay, it's not perfect, it's not aligned like a plastic that would be designed for this would be, but I'm going to show you that this will work just fine and you stay within the rules and regulations. That is though. Oh, that feels nice, whatever it is. It's a nice bass. Look at that. So see what I'm talking about? You gotta see how your ice gear is performing before you put it on the ice. Now I didn't put new line on this one because basically what I want to test out is this reel, because I'll actually use this reel for walleye fishing. That's not a bad bass. That's not a bad bass at all. Little tungsten jig. Oh, he popped off right there. But like I said, little tungsten jig. I probably should have netted that one. Tipped with a tentacle of a tube jig. Again, flies and lures only. You can only use scented and salted plastics over 1.5 inches. And I'm well within the regs by doing this. And it works. I got another one on. I don't think this is a fish. Yeah, that was just vegetation. Oh, maybe it was a fish. See, once you get these fish fired up, back down to the bottom, and the bite's real light, real light. Now, before I forget, guys, so these rods, another nice bass. So the rod that I'm using right now I actually just picked up at the Eagle Claw factory store. They got a handful of them that there's a great deal on them right now, and you can go get yourself one. I'm trying to talk and bring this fish in. You can go get yourself one for cheap. Okay, there it is. Let me show you guys that jig right in the top of his mouth. Oh, and he took my plastic. Just a ton of fun. So what I'm going to do right now, one more time, show you guys what I'm doing. Cheap little Walmart special tube jig. You know, you spend like $5, you get it's like a 250 piece count or something like that. I take the tentacle and then I just thread it up like I would any other plastic. Easier said than done after X amount of cups of coffee, but we're gonna make do. Okay, so this one isn't gonna look too, you know what, let's do that over. So again, you take this tentacle right like so. That's all it is, a little tentacle off of a Walmart special tube jig, you know, a $5 for a 200 piece kit, and you just thread it up. And it's so small, I've given up trying to get it to be perfectly threaded up on the jig, but if I get close enough, I'm happy. And just that little tail right there keeps you within the rules and the regs, and the fish love it. We're going to utilize underwater footage in this segment to illustrate where I found fish during the taping of LFK TV episode 5.
When I saw this big bad mamma jamma cruising, I knew I was going to share it with you guys. I know my good buddy Darius is going to appreciate this channel cat. So moving on to crappie. All the crappie that I found were suspended. They were either in, the 5 to 6 foot range, hovering over 10 foot of water, or they were a little bit deeper in the 11 and 12 foot range, hovering over 18 foot of water, but they were all suspended. Bluegill I found all over the place. I found them in 4 foot of water, I found them in 18 foot of water, but one thing I can tell you is the bigger bluegill I found in vegetation deeper in, 14, 15 foot of water. Moving on to largemouth bass. The concentrations of bass that I found were anywhere from 11 to 14 foot of water in or near vegetation. I found a couple stragglers, but the concentrations, without a doubt, were relating to deeper vegetation. The perch I found basically on the outside of vegetation in what you would call the basin. The basin in a pond is a lot smaller than, a big reservoir, but it's still the same principle. You had to move around a little bit on the basin to find the perch, but once you found them, it was on. Paying attention to your jigging technique or your jigging cadence is of the utmost importance when you're fishing vertical like we did in this episode of LFK TV. I really wish I can give you guys one surefire jigging cadence to use to catch fish, but the fact of the matter is the bite's going to change throughout the day. Sometimes it seems like the bite changes minute by minute. You really have to be aware and pay attention to how the fish below you are responding to your jigging cadence at that very moment, not what was getting you bit a couple minutes ago. Throughout the course of filming this episode, I got bit on jigging cadences anywhere from, hopping it aggressively 6 inches off the bottom to almost a dead stick presentation. I will say this though, the most consistent performer for all species that I fished for in this episode was a subtle hop either off the bottom or just above the weeds. Another thing I want to add is some of these takes are so subtle and so light, if while you lift that rod tip you feel any weight at all, just set the hook.
I've got here is a little tungsten jig. You can't use scented or salted here. So what I did is I'll take the tentacles off of a tube jig, or off of a paddle fry, one of the legs off the paddle fry, and I'll use that instead of tipping it with, you know, a little gulp maggot or something that I might do where I was allowed to. And let me tell you, these fish do not mind at all, as long as you can find them. I don't know how many bass I've caught. Oh, he popped off. I don't know how many bass I've caught. I'm running out of time, which really sucks because the bite's so good. I really am. I'm butthurt that I'm running out of time because I've had so much fun. I think what I'm going to do is I'll do an intro when I get in the truck, and I'll let you guys just watch this footage. Another one. Already another one. I'll let you guys watch this footage. And like I said, just get out, test your ice equipment, have fun. And oh, this is a little bit better one. He's not huge by any means, but it's a decent fish. So it's a little tungsten jig, okay, and one of the tentacles from a paddle fry is what I'm using. And it's taken me a while to find them. You know, I've done some searching, but once you get on them, it's just so much fun. All right, guys, so I got fish down there right now. I want to close out the show. It would be great to close out on a fish, but I don't know if that's going to happen. It's going to happen. So get out there. This isn't a bass. Oh, it's a nice perch. It's a really nice perch. Look at this jumbo. Oh. So get out and test your ice equipment. You know, if you've got a kayak, if you've got a belly boat, there's local lakes that you can get out on, all up and down the Front Range. And I do it every year. You know, I do it every year. I see how my ice equipment's doing, and then when it's time to hit the ice, I know what I have to fix. I know what's working well, and it really does. It pays dividends all ice season long.